Welcome to the Rad Dad Redemption Podcast. Here's your hosts, Drew and Dex.
Episode 4, Rad Dad Redemption Podcast. It's nice to have you back in the dungeon, the basement.
Hey, thanks for coming all the way out. Thanks for coming all the way down.
Yeah, came all the way down the stairs. You were here a little bit earlier. Like, usually you walk in, it's a little later in the evening, but our daughters are playing today, and you kind of got to see my routine, which is like taking an aggressive pregame shit to prepare.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Well, you didn't watch
you didn't
me,
me in.
But I definitely announced that, like, yeah, I gotta go poo poo.
I got the day in the life, including the poo poo. It was nice. I got a dinner invite. Admittedly, I had no idea what was happening today. Our text back and forth, I was really lost on that.
Yeah, we're not good organizers.
Not good communicators. We're not organized and we're bad at communicating.
We should start a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, we my wife kept asking. She's like, "So, like, what are you and Drew doing?" I was like, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe tomorrow.
Workings of a plan.
Yeah. No, but it all fell together,
as it always does.
Yeah, and as you always do, brought the beverages again.
Yeah, heck yeah. Tonight we are actually yucking on this yum. We are yumming on some watermelon cowboy cocktail, courtesy of Arizona.
I know how this went down. You walked in the store, you saw Arizona, different style can. You're like, okay, this intrigues me. And then all you saw was cowboy cock, and you're like, say no more.
I didn't even finish the word.
Watermelon? I guess that makes sense, yeah.
Ram Ranch. Here, play that Ram Ranch segment you've been working on. Play that Ram Ranch jingle.
I'm not doing any more segments. No more jingles.
No, we were at Bulk Barn, and I always try to get something new and exciting. And I didn't even realize Bulk Barn had a drink section. Interestingly enough, not sold in bulk.
That's a little bit of a bait and switch there.
a lot of logistical challenges there. But yeah, so it's a can I've never seen before. And it was also the only, like, the other drinks there were like horrible looking health food. There was one with like basil seeds in it. Do you remember Orbs? Remember the Orbs drink?
Yeah.
Yeah, like little floaties. These were floaties, but they were basil seeds.
For, I guess, if you want to have a really good time, just drink your basil seeds.
Yeah, I have no idea what that was about. It seemed awful. So this was not only like the cowboy cock, boom, had to have it. But I also was like, this is probably the only palatable drink in this entire establishment. And even this one gave me the vibes. When I bought it, I was laughing. I was thinking of like Homer Simpson, you know, when he goes into the city to get the boot off his car.
Yeah.
And he's so hungry, and that dude's like, Coca-Cola. And he smacks one down. He's like, oh, this is, give me something to drink. And he's like, I got Mountain Dew and I got crab juice. And he's like, oh, gross. Give me the crab juice. Yeah, this is I was looking for crab juice, but all I got was cowboy cocktail.
You know what I like about this? Watermelon stuff tends to never taste anything remotely close to watermelon.
And
this is actually like, it's like, oh, I'm drinking a refreshing like watermelon iced tea. Yeah, it's nice.
That's interesting because I did read the back on this, and the entire contents is only 10% juice. Huh. And the first fruit listed, well, it ain't watermelon. We got pear concentrate.
So this is another bait and switch here.
Yeah.
What's going on, Bulk Barn?
Bulk Barn, though. I got snacks for days. I'm excited to wrap this episode up so I can just go sit in my.
We went to Bulk Barn the other day, and I can't leave Bulk Barn without like a 5-pound bag of Dino Sours.
We definitely got. Oh yeah, that's requisite. You're going to Bulk Barn, you're getting the Dino Sours, 70 cents. It's the only thing that inflation didn't hit. You're like, I'm gonna get a kg of these.
If my family ever hits hard financial times, like can't afford groceries, it's just Dino Sours. We'll think of different ways to prepare them.
Here's a question. Are you one of those godless heathens that thinks that the Dino Sours aren't different flavors? Or are you like a true, you know...
No, they're definitely different flavors.
Yeah, like red is different.
Yeah.
Green
red and green are the best. The rest are like...
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember who I was talking with the other day. I'm just going to go ahead and say it had to be, you know, Tom or someone's.
Typical
Tom thing to say. Who was like, all Dino Sours taste the same. And I was like, well, that, my friend, couldn't be further from the truth.
No, so I have heard, and maybe this is where like candy legends are intersecting, like Skittles. Have you ever seen the Skittles challenge on like TikTok or...
Is it like the cinnamon challenge?
No, because you can actually keep Skittles down. But all Skittles basically taste the same.
They are the same.
Yeah.
They're genuinely the same flavor.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. No, it's true. Go get a bag of Skittles, close your eyes, and have Megan feed them to you.
Okay, Tuesday night.
Okay, so typical
I'll
evening.
just pay
at the
more
Hoover
attention.
House.
We'll just pay more attention this time around.
And then try and guess the flavors, and you probably won't get them right because they all taste the same.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I think that's just a Skittles thing, and maybe that legend has made it into other candies.
What else did I get at Bulk Barn? I always, when I go to Bulk Barn, I'm like, I'm gonna make my own personalized snack mix.
Okay.
You know, with only the stuff I want. So I got 2 different types of pretzels, some cheesies, wasabi peas. What else did I get? Shreddies. I actually do like the Shreddies.
My daughter eats Shreddies for breakfast every morning.
I think they're the best part of snack mix. Like, everyone going out there being like, I wish they would just get rid of the Shreddies. I'm the guy that's like, I could actually just eat Shreddies.
I don't know. I ate Shreddies a lot as a kid. I feel like my mom was just like, here's your shredded wheat. Like, and go toil on the farm.
That's
now.
a country kid thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't really like Shreddies anymore. But
Do you guys ever have the, like, you know, you're familiar with mini wheats?
Yep.
Are you aware of just like the predecessor wheat?
Like what grows in the field?
No, it's like literally one step more refined than just like a plant growing in the ground. But it's called because what are mini wheats? Is it Post? Is it Kellogg's?
Yeah, Kellogg's mini wheats.
Kellogg's mini wheat. So it's Kellogg's wheat, and they're just like one giant size biscuit. So it's not the mini. It's just like the wheat, the pre-mini, the mega, and there's no frosting on it. And it's like it even says on the back like you should enjoy this with boiled water.
Yuck.
Yeah, no, it sounds like something you guys were eating out on the farm.
Maybe.
Little Shreddies sprinkled on top for extra flavor.
Yeah, can I have some Shreddies with my wheat?
Yeah. All right, that's who we're sponsored by. We're sponsored by Watermelon Cowboy Cocktail and Kellogg's Wheat.
Have you ever heard the story of how like cornflakes were first made by the Kellogg guy?
No.
I'm gonna call him John Kellogg.
John F. Kellogg? No,
Yeah.
I've not.
Okay, well
Enlighten
this
me.
is a funny story. Funny, not haha.
Good.
Yeah, so it's going to be very
You guys came
entertaining
for
all
laughs.
the listeners. Yeah. So he was an old school psychiatrist. Like we're talking back when, like, if you were behaving a little crazy, like we should probably take out a piece of your brain, like frontal lobotomy.
Lobotomize him. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was a very conservative, like godly man who was also a psychiatrist, and his thesis was if he makes a really boring, tasteless, shitty cereal, cornflakes is what resulted, then his patients, generally men, would be less likely to like touch themselves in a sexual manner.
What?
Yes. And so he invented it at his sanitarium.
Is this where we're gonna cue in the correction? The
No,
post?
I've 100%.
So Dex said some crazy stuff. That's just me. That's just me who's poorly researched.
I've read this many times, and then his brother, who was helping him, was the one that eventually marketed it and turned it into like the Kellogg's like mega company that you know today.
Huh.
Yeah. So
The more you know.
I'm not sure how he was like, well, if people eat bad cereal, they probably won't jerk it, but that was his.
Yeah,
that
sorry,
was his thought.
John F. Kellogg's probably turning over in his grave because I eat cornflakes, and let me tell you, it doesn't work.
Maybe it was meant to be used with like other treatments.
In conjunction, part of this balanced breakfast. I always love that. They're like, this is part of this balanced breakfast, and it zooms out and it's like 8 things of bread, a glass of milk with your milk already in your cereal, a thing of orange juice, some fruit.
And it's also like part of this balanced breakfast. And if you took away the cereal, it's actually like a healthier, more balanced breakfast.
Yeah. So they weren't doing that because it's like, hey, have this as part of your balanced breakfast. There's definitely like the Food and Drug Administration was like, you can't call this food breakfast. You can't be out there marketing this as like the single things people should eat. If you want to do that, you have to at least like allude to the fact that like if you're eating this for breakfast, it should make up a very small portion of what you actually ingest as food.
You honestly, like, you shouldn't be eating just a giant bowl of cereal every morning.
That's a perfect segue for our topic today, the giant bowl of cereal, because I believe we're headed in a direction of some Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
But before we get there, we did receive another email.
Oh God. All right.
So-
Play the mailbag intro.
Play that jingle.
Mailbag time, motherfucker.
We were pausing here to listen to it. It's all in post.
Everything's done after the fact.
Mailbag.
Not a very advanced studio we got down here in the basement.
So if you didn't listen to last episode, if you somehow skipped an episode, we are encouraging our listeners to drop us a line at raddadredemptionpodcast@gmail.com. And there's a super high chance that one of the 40 of our listeners is going to get read on air. It's not a live show. Going to get read into the snowball here. So please shoot your shot. Let us know what you think. And I'm just pulling up today's mailbag. Okay. Hi. This one comes, actually I should read that first. This one comes in from a Morgan Groover.
Okay, yeah.
Hi. My name is Morgan Groover. I am enjoying the podcast, and Rosie O'Donnell is doing an excellent job as co-host.
Okay, that comes up again. All right.
What I find even more impressive is that you also have Ben Shapiro and his unmistakable voice on the show. He has a massive following, and it's very cool he takes the time to record with Rosie despite their clear ideological differences. Keep up the great work. Best regards, Morgan.
Thank you, Morgan, for writing in. I appreciate that you decided to not attack me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very shocked at that email.
Yeah, Hardy.
Yeah. This is the first I'm hearing of this.
Rosie O'Donnell and Ben Shapiro. That's an angle, though.
That should be a podcast.
If we don't get over 40 listeners, we're going to just have to try and pitch this podcast idea to those two. We'll be your writers. We're terrible. We don't write anything down.
Yeah, I don't think Ben Shapiro is... I
was giving a hard Piro.
I actually don't know how to pronounce it because... as people might be able to understand from listening to our few episodes, I'm probably not in his wheelhouse.
Pronunciation, you definitely are. You 100% are.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty far right.
Yeah, no, get out of town. But yeah, the pronunciations and enunciations, at least on my end, are lacking. I'm not very well read. I'm kind of doing a lot of these bits live. Fuck it, we're doing it live. So, Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for the mailbag. Let's get into cartoons.
Mailbag. Yeah, so this kind of popped up to me. I was watching Octonauts with Marin.
Okay. Yeah, I know that one. Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah.
And it's kind of an insane concept. It's another iteration of G.I. Joe Rescue Rangers, and then all of a sudden it's what if the Rescue Rangers were puppies? And they're oh, you've got Paw Patrol. And it's now what if the Rescue Rangers were underwater and they were bear squids? And you're yeah, whatever, sure, okay. And then it's how these things get pitched. I always find myself thinking about. And as I'm sitting there watching Octonauts, I'm these are insane, but are they more insane than what we watched as kids? Is this just very, very good planned marketing because this is actually what kids are into? These just insane out there. This is meme culture. This is real culture.
I feel like kids will kind of watch anything and be pretty happy with it. But I for all the good shows that we remember through that nostalgic lens, I mean, there's some shows that's you think it's cool, but when they were doing the pitch meeting, so I think of, and I had this T-shirt that I wore just to death when I was a kid, Biker Mice from Mars.
I have that one written down too. Get out of my head. Biker Mice from Mars. That was so they did TMNT, and that was one of those things where they're okay, fucking teenage turtles that are mutants and they're crime fighting ninjas. Let's do. We got Street Sharks. Okay, these guys are just rollerblading mutants with hammerheads and great white shark heads and shit. And that was one of those ones. It was all right, Biker Mice, and they're from Mars. That's gold.
Yeah. They found a formula and they're just squeezing in different types of animals.
Do you remember anything about that show?
No, I just remember I had that T-shirt and it was think of stereotypical bikers, just couple road hogs, and make them mice.
Some of the toys.
Yeah?
I had one of the main mice, the tough, Kurt Russell Escape from LA version, the guy with the patch.
Right.
But it was one of the big, didn't make sense. There was your action figures, which, how tall would they be? 8 to 10 inches. And then I just had this one 30-inch Biker Mice from Mars. He was always the bad guy when I'm setting him up in my room. Huh. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, but as I'm saying this, the shows today are not that insane. As a dad and as a mom, and if you're listening here and you've got little kids, you know, kind of before kids, you don't think you'll ever like, or it's not that you don't think you will, but maybe you underestimate how much children's television you're actually going to be consuming as a parent, because it's like a huge insane amount. It becomes part of your life.
Definitely. So probably the best example of getting into TV shows as a parent is I've been put on to Bluey. Have you seen Bluey at all?
No.
So Marin will get into this, I'm sure, later. My daughter's a little bit older, obviously, but Bluey it's about I want to say Australian shepherds, but they're not they're blue heelers.
Bluey.
But it's an Australian show, so that's why I always think they're Australian shepherds. It would have just made a lot more sense, but okay, whatever. I'm not here to nitpick Bluey.
Do you think they just call them shepherds over there, or what?
I think Australian shepherds are actually from Texas.
Okay.
And they name, I'm not even joking, they named them Australian shepherds because they're like, oh, we can market these like hardy farming dogs as like being able to withstand the Australian outback.
Oh, yeah. Baja dogs. I hear you.
Yeah,
a couple of Baja. All right. On with Bluey, the healers. I'm with you.
So it's Bluey, and she's got a little sister, Bingo, and then she's got her mom and dad. And I think what I like about the show is they put in some jokes for the parents. They know the parents could be watching, but it definitely has some really good storylines. I get really into it. Sometimes I'll be sitting there and I'm just like engrossed in the storyline, like
you're
fixated on the
you're
TV.
All in.
Oh yeah. And then I'll kind of look around and Kennedy's like not even in the room anymore. She's starting a fire in the kitchen, and I'm like, oh no, I was a little too into Bluey right there. But they cover some topics that's like, oh, like this is kind of like real life. This is pretty heavy for a kid's show. Like in one episode, she goes out for a walk with her dad, and they're having fun. They're copying each other and that kind of thing. And then they stumble across this like bird that got attacked by a cat, and they take it to the vet, and you're like, oh, well, obviously the vet's gonna make the bird better and everything's gonna be a happy ending. And no, the bird fucking dies. So you're like, whoa, okay, Bluey, like heavy topic there. But, and then so it shows her
Life
like kind
death.
of like, she processes this, and I'm like, and she's okay at the end, but she had to like kind of realize that like this was not a happy ending, right? And like, I'm like, okay, like Bluey's tackling doing a better job of parenting than I am, that's for sure.
Oh, TV's the best parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this episode should be called, is my mom and dad TV. I watch so much TV and continue to watch so much TV. There was never a point in time where I was watching cartoons and then I'm like, I'm not watching them anymore. Just continue to watch them. Now I've got a kid who's watching cartoons, and I'm just like branching out my genres. I do like, you know what? You end up just spending so much time watching them. It's partly like you're getting into them because it's just what's on. Yeah. You know, and we're seasoned TV watchers. We know the drill. The thing's on and you watch the thing. You know, you absorb it. But I like the ones that have some substance. You know, I was saying Octonauts earlier. You know, each episode ends with a creature report, and they educate you, and that's the best part of the show. Creature report dun, dun, dun. And they tell you a little bit about, like, you know, that mantis shrimp that was in the episode that we helped the hermit crab find his bigger shell. Like, that's a real thing, and here's a real picture of it. And I'm like, and Marin's the same thing. Like, she's off playing with knives in the kitchen. I'm like, Marin, you're missing creature report. That's where they show the real animal. I'll tell you all about it when you get back.
Keeping with the underwater television shows, one that I feel like is still good and extends from our childhood to our own kids' childhood is SpongeBob.
Oh my God.
Love SpongeBob.
SpongeBob hemp pants. SpongeBob SquarePants is, when I was teaching, we had this like streaming subscription, and like for whatever reason, all of the SpongeBob movies were on there. You know, Sponge Out of Water, or Sponge's Big Day, or I'm making these names up. I think Sponge Out of Water is one of them.
Sponge on the Run is an excellent movie.
But yeah, but I'd put them on any chance I get. Like, you know, close to Christmas, you got a half day, or like at every class, you know, starting and watching the first 40 minutes of these SpongeBob movies, and I'm dying laughing, man. They're so good.
I love SpongeBob. Again, kind of like Bluey, will throw in some content or some jokes for the parents, because I like that they know that parents are going to be watching this and they want to entertain the parents just as much as they're entertaining their target audience, you know, kids, whatever, 2 to 12, right? Like, and one of my favorite recurring jokes in the SpongeBob one is the fish that always, like, his eyes burn every time he sees something. Like, he'll see like his SpongeBob's like little skinny legs, like looking all, and then they do the close up. SpongeBob always does the best like close ups, and it's just like the like when they're tired or something, got the like gross bags under their eyes, the crusties in the corner of their eyes.
It's very Ren and Stimpy-esque, where like the show itself is cell shaded, and then when it does those like zoom in frames, it's just like someone's hand drawn artwork, like super detailed, veiny, knobby knees.
Yeah.
Yes. No. It's not only written well, it's not only voice acted well. Like it's a visual friggin' masterpiece. I love that show.
And there's that fish, and he's every time he sees something gross, he's just like, my eyes, and his eyes like light on fire and burn. And it's just a recurring joke that happens like every 15 episodes. This guy's eyes just light on fire.
Oh man, there's a lot of those. The fish that always like complains about his Krabby Patty, or like the weightlifting lobsters, and a couple of them.
Yeah,
we could do a SpongeBob review show.
Man, we're gonna turn this into a SpongeBob podcast. We're just gonna rip through a full season every episode.
That's another one that I was excited to show Marin, and then she's too young.
Yeah, she would be a little. I even think sometimes Kennedy's not as into it as I am.
They don't get it.
No, they don't get the excellent storytelling and A+ humor of SpongeBob SquarePants.
The one that I like, Marin. It's a hit for Marin and it's a hit for Dad. And I've actually, there's 5 seasons I think, and we have watched them all through twice already. Is King Julian. Did you ever watch Madagascar?
I've seen Madagascar, but I haven't seen the show.
And like the one lemur king, it's Sacha Baron Cohen. Yeah, so there's a whole show called King Julian. And I first heard about it not like scrolling on Netflix Kids. It was my neighbor Brendan. He's like, "Oh, you got a kid now?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, "You watching King Julian?" And this was early on in the whole gig, where I didn't realize just how many kids television shows I was gonna be watching. And listeners, when you're out there being like, you don't have kids, and you're like, "So what? You get kids? And you just like put them in front of a TV and that's it." It's just like a game of distractions. Like when we went to Georgia and we're on the plane for 5 hours, and you're like, "I just need something." You give in. You're like, "I don't care. Just stop screaming, please. You can watch this iPad." But my neighbor Brendan told me about King Julian, and he's like, "You're gonna love it. It's a hit. Like it's not a show for them. It's a show for like us."
I'll have to check that one out, because I'm always looking for something good. One that I watched with Kennedy that I enjoyed as a kid as well, and she also really enjoyed, was the OG Pokemon series.
Like Indigo League.
Yeah. And first of all, as I was watching them, I'm thinking back to when I was like, I don't know, grade 2, grade 3, watching these episodes after school every day.
Oh,
just like, so I've got that like nostalgia. But she also loved it. She was like, love Pokemon.
I tried to watch some of those. Ash is just such a fucking meeper, the guy's a bitch. And Rock is just so clearly like wait, he's gonna get slapped with a sexual harassment lawsuit from all these like Officer Jennies. Like, he's a disgusting pig. Misty, like, she's, I don't know what her problem is, but she fucking sucks too. Fuck her. No, but I do like Pokemon. I just hate the original cast. Fuck those guys.
I just like because I always played the video games too, and it just brings me back to like so many fond memories as a kid, like catching all 150 before they started adding a whole bunch and I can't keep up.
Oh, you said grade 2, 3. That brings me back to Big Rock. Like, I remember coming to school and you would like legit bring your binder and you would like hit the playground and be like, "I'm gonna make some trades. I'm gonna flex on this shiny card I just got, or I'm gonna like pretend to have a battle." No one actually knew how to do the battles properly. It was like an actual Pokemon trading card game, but we would just like crudely do the math. Like, this says 100 and I'm going first, so your guy's fucking dead. Yeah, the binders, get them just stacked.
I still have my Pokemon card binder.
What?
Yeah, and I still have.
Did you have a lot of them, like of the OG 150?
Yeah, I had a lot of. I was collecting a lot of them, and I don't know if you recall this about me, but it's probably still like my greatest claim to fame is I had a holographic Charizard.
Like first edition.
Not a first edition, but it was a shadowless. So that was before they added the shadows on the border of the holographs.
You know what's crazy is I'm obviously into it enough still. I'm not gonna know exactly what that means. I've definitely watched some video of like the difference in like first gen shiny Charizards out there. There's a couple people out here listening being like, "Oh wow, yeah, that's like the 4th rarest."
It was, because so there's like, when they first did them, there's the first edition Charizard, which is like, you'll see it on eBay every now and then. One of them that's rated 10 out of 10 will sell for like 30 grand. because they're super rare. And Charizard was the rarest one in that original deck. And then when they kept printing them, it was a while before they added this like shadow border around the pictures of the Pokemon. So in between kind of like that first Gen 1 run and when they started adding the shadows on the border, there's the shadowless cards. And so that's kind of like the second most rare. So I've got a shadowless holographic Charizard, not Gen 1.
I've never found you so sexy, Dex.
Oh yeah, like that's my retirement plan right there. I'm just waiting for that thing to grow in value.
Man, they came so in and out of favor. Like you'd bring your binder one day and everyone was doing it, and the next day it'd be like, Pokemon sucks. They probably wouldn't even say sucks because this was the 90s and we used to use some pretty like non-PC language. We said a lot of other stuff about Pokemon. So like I remember like I had all my cards and then I got rid of them and then I started collecting them again. I never had like my dudes, the Taylor brothers, Wade and Craig. Like I don't know what type of racket they had with their mom, but it was like anytime they left the house, they were getting a packy. And wow. they had their whole 150 like master set and then just like some like tin, you know, like an upper deck tin that they emptied out and put like all their extras in, and they just gave me one. I went over there one day like, you can have any card we have 3 of, you can take for yourself, and I was like able to get like a set of 75 and I was back in the game until one of those like horrible Big Rock kids said something negative about Pokemon and I had to give it up again.
I definitely remember there was a time probably at Pokemon's peak and Alicia's mom used to be like a principal at a school in Calgary, and she talks about how they had to like ban Pokemon cards at school because kids were just fighting over them and getting beat up for their Pokemon cards and stuff. Like it was wild.
I could there's definitely Pokemon related violence. I remember like Pokemon related bullying. My dude Eric, he got like I think it was like Tiger Electronics or something. It was like a Pokedex and it actually like made the noises, and like we would like run around the playground at Big Rock and like go up to some kid and like point the Pokedex at him and like pretend like we're reading. We're like, oh, we've encountered a fat asshole mom. So I mean, we were just dickhead kids. I feel like we did that with everything.
Yeah, I feel like the Pokedex had nothing to do with that. It was just
that wasn't Pokemon.
It was the available tool at the time.
That was just me with an older brother, just repeating everything I heard. My big thing back in the day that I still watch, like I just finished watching the original series for probably the 5th time during COVID, but when I like at the end of Big Rock, grade 5, grade 6 is when I started really getting into Dragon Ball.
I remember how much you loved Dragon Ball.
Oh man. Specifically Dragon Ball. Like I know there's a lot of people like, oh yeah, Dragon Ball Z, which was a good show. Don't get me wrong, everybody. But we're not talking about the same thing here. Dragon Ball is the original release, and that show is still to this day, it holds up. I watch it. It's like watching old Jackie Chan movies. Like it's got it all. There's ripping action. There's like, you know, obviously the animation is very, very bad. Very linear storyline, but like there's jokes and there's stuff that's in there that's definitely, because this show is from the 80s, like you couldn't have characters like that anymore. I get a kick out of it. I fucking love it. Yeah, Dragon Ball till I die. So just like SpongeBob though, this is one of those things. I know it's rad. I have experience with it. I'm going to want to show it to Marin. You know, I'm going to show my daughter, and I just have this anticipation, I suppose, that she is going to like everything that I liked as a kid. Like it's just a matter of time. It's like she's just going to grow into it at the same ages. You know, by the time she's in grade 2 and 3, she'll be at Big Rock School trading her Pokemon. And I never even considered for a minute until I think right shortly after we had her, Megan said something to me. I was going on and on about like, oh yeah, me and Marin, we're going to play Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Then we're going to play Majora's Mask. Then we're going to play Wind Waker. And Megan was just like, she's not going to like anything you like. You're going to be like lame, stupid dad. And I was like, whoa, huh? Like, what?
It's true though, because you look back at everything with like these rose-colored nostalgia glasses, and you're like, I loved all of this stuff, and I had a wonderful childhood enjoying all of these things. So obviously, I want my kid to experience that as well. But yeah, there's gonna be, you know, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, Dragon Ball, but you know, there's Bluey. You know?
yeah. No, I gotta get on Bluey. What else is good that's out there right now? Marin, we when she was, I mean, she's still very little, but we did turn on for a while Coco Melon, and that is just absolute putrid sludge. I hate that show with a passion.
It makes me wish that I had thought of the idea first, because it basically just started as like a YouTube channel, and they were like, let's hire the cheapest animators we can find on Fiverr and sing some terrible songs like gotta
the
eat
worst
your
songs.
Peas.
Yes,
I'll eat my peas. And you're like, this sucks. And your kid is just like, oh, this is a certified hit. Like,
it's Baby Crack. The first time we turned it on, Maren just started like staring at the TV, and we lost her. We lost her in time for, I had to just like snap at her, hit her with the smelling salt. We're like, bring her back. Turn off that Coco Melon.
Yeah.
But that fucking show, I always had the same thought, just like, who writes this stuff? And they probably made so much money. They're probably doing so good right now. And the songs specifically, we must have watched the same one, because like they don't rhyme. They're not like they're not in any like discernible pattern or sequence in terms of their rhyme scheme. They're not necessarily like sung in key, and they certainly like they're thoughtless. Like the vegetable one, they're like gardening. They're like, let's go gardening. We're gonna pick some carrots. Carrots are good. Now we're over here. Look, there's some apples. And you're like, what is fucking happening? This is that cutaway from Family Guy where Randy Newman just sings with the fam. Right foot, left foot. Taking a step. Yeah.
And now you can't go to like a toy section of a store without like a wall of Cocomelon stuff. So like and now it's obviously on Netflix as well, but they leveraged their YouTube channel with like bottom barrel singing and animating into like $100 million business. Reminds me of the Baby Shark people too. They sang that one song. They're like, yep, Baby Shark. And now there's a mom, and now there's and there's grandma and grandpa sharks, and it was just like it was the same thing, and they just went through the family. Sharks. Yeah. And now there's a Baby Shark TV show, which is not that good, but it's not bad either. But yeah, there's the Baby Shark toys at Walmart or Toys R Us, wherever you're getting your toys these days. And yeah, I forget how much they made off of that, but it's like a stupid amount of money.
We need to stop doing this friggin' podcast.
This is going nowhere.
40 listeners. We gotta start thinking of like a children's show or not. Like some of these are not even ideas. They're just,
somebody just started singing, and they're like, there might be something
out of
here.
A paint can. I can't remember. I'm trying to think of the one we watched today, but it was like in the middle of this episode. And these kids had started out. They're like in some type of like race. One's a princess Griselda, and the other is this girl who her name is True. It's called True and something.
Oh, True in the Rainbow Kingdom.
Yeah, True. Yeah. So they're racing around the cars, blah blah blah, and it's like whatever. And then all of a sudden the show, like mid show, is like time for a dance party, and the girl True like reaches in her backpack and pulls out this like anthropomorphic pill. Or it's like pill in like the sense of like a small speaker, and then the speaker just starts like jamming on some tunes, and every character just like stops to have this like rainbow rave. And I'm watching it and I'm like, this is a nightmare. Like this is like that episode of Pokemon that didn't get aired in North America, the Porygon crisis.
Oh yeah, where everybody got seizures.
Everyone had seizures. I'm like watching this, I was like, what was this pitch meeting like? What were like, they're sitting in the board of directors like, I don't know, okay. It's like fucking rainbow rave that a pill bottle sets off after their crazy chocolate race. Like, who gives a shit? They're gonna buy it.
Just a bunch of kids. They don't know any better. I definitely remember, that reminds me of, because I would always play on CBC Kids in the morning. I remember Kennedy was sick a couple years ago. She's maybe 2 years old, and we were just sitting on the couch. I took the day off from work to hang out with her, and we were just watching CBC Kids in the morning. And it was True in the Rainbow Kingdom, and then classic like CBC in-house produced, like there's this dog, and he's like a drummer, and he's like, I can't go on stage and start drumming until someone's like read me a story. And they would always promote their Twitter account, like the CBC Kids Twitter account. So I watched like all these short, like 5-minute episodes of this dog having stories read to him. By the way, one of the people on there was like Jacob Hogard from Headley, who's now I was like, oh no, get away from Jacob. But so
get away from Jacob. Yikes.
But I tweeted them, and I was like, this dog needs a story to be read for him before every show, but he refuses to read the story, so you have like Canadian celebrities come on and read the story for him. I was like, why doesn't he do it for himself? Are we to assume that the dog is illiterate? And I'm like tweeting CBC children's
Just blowing him up.
Just all day, just like tweeting. I'm like, I think I found a hole in the story of True in the Rainbow Kingdom. And I can just imagine the person that's managing that account. They're like, this guy sucks. He thinks he's funny.
This guy thinks he's so funny. Did you get any responses?
No. They were probably like, let's not give any airtime to the guy that's accusing our adorable little dog that's hanging out with Jacob Hogarth of being illiterate.
You know, and I sometimes I feel like the shows we watched when we were younger, they were more quality. Like they had to be. Like there wasn't this heightened degree of consumerism. But I know that that's bullshit. I know that it was like peak. Like you create the show, create the toy, you know.
I mean, Saturday morning
on ice experience.
Yeah, Saturday morning cartoons were basically made to sell toys.
But some of them, like, hey, did you ever watch? You're talking about Canadian shows, and I actually I don't think this was a Canadian show. I think it could be a Canadian show. I stand to be corrected. Maybe English. Did you ever watch Rupert, as in like Rupert the Bear?
Yep.
That show was insane, and it ran, I think, from like 1991 to 97, all 13 episode runs, all like traditionally animated and like intensely fantastical and like just like so cool to look at and like wicked voice acting. And it was a throwaway. Like that was the show, like sometimes you'd get up too early and your mom would be like, leave me alone, I'm not ready for work yet. Just like you can watch before school TV, and you're like, huh? Like I was gonna come home and just like hang out with TV Parent from 3:30 till 10 p.m. I get to see TV Parent from 7 to 7:30, and that'd be like Rupert was on. You know, it wasn't getting prime time. You know, what would you call it? Prime time. Well,
like a prime time slot.
Yeah, it wasn't getting a good slot. It was getting a fucking shit slot. But Rupert was a hit. His bro Bill the Badger, Ping Pong, who had that elevator that would just show up and take him on crazy adventures. God, Rupert fucks.
I feel like, you know, to go back to where you were talking about the quality of today's shows, I think just because there's so many distribution channels.
Sorry, that's where
you went on
I
your
got caught up in Rupert. I was saying
good.
like Rupert was fantastic. Like they did a really good job. It was a high quality production. I feel like you were talking about Cocomel, but there's a lot of shows right now. There's shovelware. They're horrible.
Well, there's so many different distribution methods. Like Saturday morning cartoons is just not a thing anymore, right? Like there's the dedicated kids channels now. You got your Disney Channel and your Family Junior or whatever. But I remember as a kid growing up on the farm, we had like 4 channels, right? We like the rabbit ears, like everybody else had cable, and I lived in the middle of fucking nowhere, and satellite TV was just kind of like coming on the scene. So, but I could still watch Saturday morning cartoons because, you know, CTV would have Saturday morning cartoons or whatever, right?
That was your dedicated time, yeah.
That was my cartoon time. And now that's not a thing. It's like there's your niche. You got your Netflix Kids, you got your Disney Plus, and they're all just like trying to fill up that content, and if they can just get enough eyes on it. And so I think you've just got this like where you used to have kind of a funnel, and you would pour in all the ideas, and only the kind of the top ones would come out the bottom to make it to Saturday morning.
Real meritocracy for cartoon development.
Now it's like, oh, you don't just have a Saturday morning on a handful of channels. It's like you've got all these streaming services. You've got the 24-hour kids channels. You've got kids that are going to be watching on Netflix, whatever, right? And then you got all the different age groups, and they're trying to hit on every age group, right?
Look at you breaking it down in terms of economics and like viewership. I mean, that's the obvious reason. That's why I'd like to think it was just because like we were like better.
We had very discerning taste.
Generation. Actually, you're talking about satellite. So we like when I was like, I guess it would have been 1995 to 1999. My dad was stationed in Wabasca, which is a First Nation reserve in
Shout out Wob City.
Out in Wabasca. And if you wanted television, like you had to have a satellite. And this is like back in the day. We're not talking about
not the one you hook up on the side of your house.
not Bellevue.
Looks like it's used to launch nuclear weapons.
Oh yeah, you go change the channel, and we'd run outside to go watch this like giant dish, like recalibrate to find like the one channel. But we had American TV when we were up there, so like it was really interesting when I moved to Okotoks in 99 2000, because there's like Teletoon and YTV, like the institutions as you do, but like they were essentially, you know, being a Canadian broadcaster, one, they had to have like 30% Canadian content, and two, like they don't have any money. And so what ended up happening is like a lot of the shows I was already watching up in Wabasca, like they were just like American syndicated shows that like these Canadian networks could now finally afford in 99. I used to run when was it? I think 9 o'clock Dragon Ball Z played 2 episodes back to back. And I would like get the TV and I would tape record them. I had a buddy who wasn't allowed to stay up past 9, so I would get to stay up till 10 to watch the 2 episodes, and then after school I'd take my like VHS of YTV over to Buddy's house and we'd watch them again. But it always end in the same saga. And like back then, like Internet 1.0, I was able to find a site that like listed the syndication rights and like which networks owned which episodes, and I was pissed off because YTV only owned up to like episode 120, like right in the middle of the Frieza saga, and I was like, even back then I was like, you broke motherfuckers. Just buy the rest of this show I love. Can't watch Reboot again, although I did love Reboot. That show was so sick.
That was a good show. Didn't they try to reboot?
I know Reboot, the original, never ended. So that is a true thing. Like if you watch all of Reboot and then like Enzo comes back and he's the Guardian and they like get introduced to the web because Bob is out there and all this crazy stuff happens with viruses. The original Reboot ends on a cliffhanger. It just
didn't get renewed. I
think Mainframe Entertainment was the company handling it, and they like went under, and there was an intention to finish this, like, and it was like it like had this huge story arc that was going to tie everything up in a neat little package, and it just stops. And then later someone was like, we should make a reboot, but they did the like, you know, we would make like a fake B movie bit about it, but they went and made it a live action show with like kids in high school, with like almost like Power Rangers style, where they'd like tune into the network and then they could, fucking shit.
Speaking of Power Rangers, that was one that I watched a lot with Tom when like his mom would babysit me.
Oh yeah.
And we would watch Power Rangers all the time. But my mom,
Tom just snacking on dinosaurs, like these all taste the same. Yeah, I can picture him right now. Goddamn.
My
bastard.
mom drew like a weird line in the sand about like TV violence when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, so did Tom's mom. Actually, that's legit. I do remember that. She would go out of the house and Tom would be like, "Now we're gonna watch Bloodsport," you know, like.
But like, so Tom's mom would let him watch Power Rangers, and my mom was like, "No, that's too violent."
Oh, so
and
your mom was like,
"Oh yeah,"
even the next.
My mom was like Kyle's mom on South Park.
That's crazy because I remember. Okay, I won't interject. I want to hear this.
So I mean, she obviously like loosened up her standards a little bit
Clint,
later.
Yeah, that's what that's exactly where I was gonna go. Like, yeah, first kid, like, oh my baby, and then like, oh, I'm done.
Don't watch Power Rangers. It's too violent.
Here's your Duke Nukem on PlayStation.
Yeah, but then she was like, oh, you can watch Pokemon, which is basically just like glorified cockfighting.
Oh, Brock, man, what a sexual predator.
watch this sexual predator have a cockfight with someone else.
Yeah, what the fuck.
Yeah, but she was like, yeah, no. And so when I went to Tom's house and I got to watch Power Rangers, and then I remember one time for Christmas, my mom bought me like the Megazord toy where you could get all the different pieces.
Oh, like
and
put
it
sick
together.
One, like a legit one. Oh yes.
Yeah, that was a Christmas highlight for sure one year.
Power Rangers, I definitely watched Power Rangers. I remember my brother was crazy into Power Rangers, like 95 when I can't remember when the movie came out, but like the first Mighty Morphin movie came out. That was a cultural event. Like all his friends were going to it. And I think later in life, I don't know, as like a tween, I was like trying to beak my brother, and I was like, yeah, well, at least I didn't like Power Rangers, and like some type of back and forth. And my brother like snapped on me. He was like, you didn't know how big Power Rangers was, okay? Like you didn't live it like we lived it. Like in 9-5, like everyone watched Power Rangers. It was and that show. You ever looked up stuff about Power Rangers?
No.
Oh,
I'm not allowed to still.
Yeah. My mom actually still has the settings pretty moderated on my internet, so I'm really hoping on my 40th she lets me dabble. That show is like, you know, all of the fighting footage, including the monsters and every sequence where the Power Rangers are actually in their outfits, it's from a different show. It's like from an entirely Japanese show that had a different plot line and a different story. And all of the like character development of the teenagers in Angel Grove and like hanging out with Zordon, that was filmed in America, but like much later. And like everything was just dubbed over. So the show is a mishmash of 2 different shows. And then there's like a whole bunch of other crazy behind the scenes stuff, like how much the cast and crew partied, how little they got paid, and how many of them would get fired for like speaking up again about their pay. Zordon, all of Zordon's like scenes that he's in were filmed in one single day for like the entirety of that original series. The Blue Ranger was like mercilessly bullied about his sexuality on set.
What?
Oh yeah, there's like, you look up like the original Power Rangers, like just, I don't even know what you just Google like the shit that happened on the first Power Rangers, or like crazy facts about the original Power Rangers, and it's nuts. Yeah, that one goes off.
Wow. A lot of stuff happening behind the scenes on Power Rangers.
And another huge massive hit that they're like, we're just gonna literally take this Japanese show, cut out the explosive bits, get these guys from LA who are living in their cars to come and film a couple high school scenes.
This brings me to, there's this new show out now. I think it's on Netflix. Kennedy watched a few episodes. She never really got into it, but I was like, okay, this is objectively like terrible. And it's basically Power Rangers, but they're like little cats. And you can tell it's like a Japanese show, and it's been dubbed over and they've put very little effort into like making it look remotely like they're actually saying the English words. And it's very weird. Like so they get like these magic powers. I just remember like in one of the episodes that I was like, this is literal shit, because there's this giant toilet that's like, I'm tired of people pooping in me, and he starts like turning people into toilets. Like that's his powers, to like turn people into stinky old toilets.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, what even is this? I was like, this is a terrible like Power Rangers ripoff toilet humor.
You weren't an anime kid growing up, were you?
No.
Yeah, toilets change people into like other toilets. Like that's whatever. There's like no rules in Japanese anime.
I don't know. I guess my mom wouldn't let me watch. She's like, too violent. Toilets are too violent. Go out in the field.
I love this. I love this piece about your mom shutting down Power Rangers. When like I wonder if it's already even come up in the podcast, but like two of my like most vivid memories of hanging out with you as children. One is, I think we were hanging out in your basement and your mom was exercising or something while like we were playing video games, and Clint was playing Duke Nukem Land of the Babes, and he had like worked himself into a literal corner in the game where he was like, Duke could not like go past a door, he didn't have the key. It's like one of those Doom style games, and so he just kept pressing the button to like unlock door, but he didn't have it. And every time you did that, the character Duke Nukem would like have a one-liner like, damn it.
He would like cycle through his like limited voice lines.
Yeah. Oh, piece of shit door.
I do remember that. And my mom was like, what are you guys playing?
What game are you guys playing? And then the other one was, I think they must have gone out to some not that they were like absentees or anything, but it was one of those like sleepovers where like, hey, mom and dad are going for dinner, we got you pizza, we got you blah blah blah, and we ended up CBC because you didn't have the channels. We watched the fucking Sheldon Kennedy story.
Yeah, which is a heavy watch for some kids in grade 4.
No context. Just like Friday night movies. I didn't even know who Sheldon Kennedy was.
No.
Oh man, I'm like, so what? He's a hockey player? This is cool. I like hockey. Like what's?
Well, and they showed like some scenes from like him wearing his Flames jersey, and I'm obviously a Flames fan. I was like,
Flames
this is cool, like Sheldon Kennedy, like Flames player. Why isn't he going on the ice? Like that, the big scene where he kind of like as an adult kind of has to grapple with like what
having
happened
a hard
to him.
time. Yeah.
And I'm just like, why isn't he going on the ice? Like,
well, it's
come
gonna
on,
explain it
Sheldon.
all here. Yeah, he's got his Graham James guy. He's a pretty cool coach. I wonder how this is gonna turn out.
Yeah, no, that was not good.
That one got. Oh well, I mean, it's the Sheldon Kennedy story. I just remember. I think there was one scene that we both kind of clued in. We're like, I don't think this is a movie we're supposed to be watching.
Yeah, this is over our heads.
Yeah,
I know what scene you're talking about too.
Like, wait, what? Where's the hockey? And then naturally we would have gone to Big Rock the next day and started like, saying everything we saw and making up some new Pokedex names.
Yeah, this is nothing like Mighty Ducks.
It's funny to really marinate on those, to ruminate, if you will, on those like recess, lunch hour, like the shenanigans as little kids. Specifically, as I consider like my own children growing up, Like, is Marin quite literally going to be on a playground one day with one of these like 8 or 9-year-old kids who's just watched the Sheldon Kennedy story the night before,
I hope
unsupervised, and they're just going to get like this total fucking awful education, like totally improperly. And
I will say, I think we grew up pretty fast in that movie.
We grew up fast as hell.
Yeah.
You're the big brother. I had an older brother.
Yeah, I was the big brother. Yeah.
Oh man. because they were my brother graduated high school in, I want to say 2002. So in like 2000, when we're kind of talking about, you know, like I had a 17-year-old brother, I had a 16, 17-year-old brother. Heard some shit.
Yeah. Well, and I'm only 2 years older than my brother, so there's not that big of a gap. But yeah, I didn't have anybody introducing any of that stuff to me. So when I was like, oh yeah, Sheldon Kennedy, what could possibly be the kind of antagonist here? His hockey coach? I'm not understanding.
Yeah, Graham James seems awesome. I remember we were talking about burning CDs. The first time I ever burned a CD, it was like the Bloodhound Gang. I think it was either Hooray for Boobies or One Fierce Beer Coaster or whatever. I can't remember what their albums are called, but I was like asking my brother, "Can you burn me this one? Like I like this one."
Speaking of, so we've kind of covered how my mom she drew a line in the sand for Power Rangers, which at the time and even still kind of seems like a weird spot to draw a line. But I remember one time I was able to go out and buy the Marshall Mathers LP.
No way.
When it first came out. And so we were in like
that in chocolate flavored water. No, is it chocolate starfish?
Chocolate
in the hot
starfish
flavored water? Yeah.
But when that came out, we were in like grade 4. Like we were not meant to be listening to Eminem at that time. And I remember one time my mom was like, I got to see what this is all about. Like my son loves this Eminem guy. And of course back then he was
my
always...
My son loves M&Ms.
My son, it must be some type of candy tie-in. But he was always in the news, right? Because he was very provocative. The lyrics were kind of, I mean, these days it's kind of like, well, that's really not really anything. But back then he was kind of on the leading edge of, and he was so big at the time, right?
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, he's got the CD. I better listen to it and see what this is all about. So my mom sat down and listened to the Marshall Mathers LP one day just to be like, what's my son listening to?
Get informed.
I encourage everybody to go back and listen to the Marshall Mathers LP, specifically some of the skits. And if we're going to pick out one in particular, it's called the Ken Caniff skit. Do you know this one?
Oh, I see. I'm trying to think, because when you say early Mathers, I'm thinking, I'm like, bitch, I'm going to kill you. You don't want to fuck with me. Like that album, right? Yeah. But I can't think of the skits.
So it's a skit where Eminem is basically like forcing two men to perform oral sex on him. So I'm listening to this as like
Mama Dunford.
Oh yeah, I'm like an 8 or 9 year old kid, just like, and I was like, oh, it's kind of funny, like kind of a weird. I remember I would skip it a lot because I was like, I don't really understand what's going on here. It's not a song. Let's get to the music, right? But I one day my mom, like very like sad look in her eyes, like she wasn't even mad, but she was just like, I think my child's been like irreparably damaged. She was like, she's like, I'm gonna take away that CD and maybe one day you can have it back, but not right now.
I'm taking your Marshall Mathers LP. I'm taking your CBC Gems Sheldon Kennedy Story VHS. These are all getting put away until you're ready. Yeah,
she's like, go watch Huck Finn. I remember we had Huckleberry Finn on VHS, which is also like, I mean, obviously it's talking about a point in time, a historical point in time is probably pretty accurate for that, but like that's also not really for kids.
I think that's a momism though. I'm excited to see what like we will either do or like maybe your wife will do. Like my brother and sister, you were talking about like getting that album. I think I could be making this up, but I feel like this happened. One of them either got Insane Clown Posse or the West Side Connection album, like unvetted. One of like this is the same kind of thing. There was that, and then my mom used to go rent movies to like, oh, we're going out on Friday night. Like I rented you some VHSs, but she wouldn't even take us. You know, she would just go and get us like whatever kids movie on her way home from work. You know, nice for her to do. But she rented one called like Cereal Mom, but like for whatever reason never like clued in that it wasn't spelt cereal as in like your Shreddies, like your Shreddies or your cornflakes. You know, it was spelled cereal as in like killer. And my mom just like never was like, she just thought she was buying, oh, Cereal Mom, it'd be great for the kids. And I think it was my sister, you know, the next day my mom was like, how'd you like the movie? And my sister's like, well, I don't really like it when the mom stabbed the boyfriend with the scissors. And that is, I looked it up. That is the scene in this movie. The like mom catches the like teenage daughter and boyfriend like knicking, and she just like grabs a pair of scissors and like stabs this guy to death. Whoa! My dad was like, Shannon, like what are you doing renting these movies?
And it's funny because some movies, you can't understand, like the Sheldon Kennedy.
You can't know how cereal is properly spelled.
Well, maybe that, I don't know a good excuse for that one, but as a kid, you can't understand sometimes the context behind these, right? And for me, one movie that I watched, and like because my mom drew a line in the sand, I probably wasn't ready to step over that line. I watched Mars Attacks, which is, you go back, you watch it, hilarious movie.
That movie's
really
wicked,
funny movie.
Yeah, good movie.
But I watched it as, a kid in grade, I think I was in grade 2 or 3 or something, and like I just couldn't quite grasp the humor of it. And so to me, it was just like humans getting fucked up by aliens, like, and I had nightmares for a long time.
Oh,
like
their faces.
Full week.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's like some fingers get bit off in that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Someone gets their head chopped off and like reattached to a dog. Yeah.
Yeah, and like every time they hit you with the ray gun, like you turn into a skeleton.
Yeah.
It's like not like, oh, when you watch it now, it's like, oh, it's a silly ray gun and like you got turned into a colorful skeleton. Like what a goofy thing to have happen. But for my context and where I was at that point in my life, that was horrifying.
That was pretty terrifying. I'm reflecting on this conversation. Here I am worried about like some of the stuff Marin's watching. I'm like, this is poor quality. You know what? We watch some pretty intense stuff. What'd you say? We grew up fast. I think our kids will be okay as long as they're not watching Mars Attacks and
and I think
listen to the Marshall Mathers LP.
Yeah. And I think like we are much more media literate now than our parents would have been, right? And I mean, I bet you every parent says that, but at the same time, it's like what is the next step? Like I feel like we've kind of hit streaming, and that's sort of like how things are now. And YouTube's been kind of watered down. But remember when YouTube first came out? It was basically just like Live Leak.
Oh yeah, I do. I had I was talking about Wade, the Taylor brothers with the crazy Pokemon cards. That was like a thing. I remember going to his buddies Wade and Will, go and hang out with Wade and Will, and it was just, we'd order cheese pizzas from Panago and watch just like the most horrible dark net, like the worst offering the internet could provide young teenagers that was the thing. That was what we were doing,
and it was just on the front page of YouTube.
Oh yeah, God yeah, no moderators.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I think the access to it now, obviously that type of stuff, but like our children are going to be inundated with media and like anything their peers are watching or have access to, whether or not their families are media literate or like very involved. Like you go into these schools and like if one kid's seen it, you can bet the rest of them are gonna have seen it by the end of the day. And they're gonna be okay. That's where I'm going with this.
They'll be fine.
They're gonna start a podcast.
The Sheldon Kennedy story at a very inappropriate age, I'm sure the kids today will be just fine.
They're gonna be talking about it in a podcast one day, or whatever the future like iteration of a podcast is.
Oh yeah, no, we are quickly hastening the end of podcasts.
40 listeners, shout out you guys. We love you. We appreciate you.
Yeah, send us a letter.
Yeah, actually, you know what, hit us on the Rad Dad Redemption podcast at gmail.com. What were your favorite shows growing up, or what do your kids watch, or just hit up Rosie and Ben Shapiro.
Tell us who we sound like.
Yeah.
All right, I feel like we're hitting the end here. We've had a really good discussion.
Yeah, today was great. I really enjoyed this.
It was fun. Time flies when you're having fun. And so I guess to bring it back to kids shows that we're watching today, what's your recommendation for the listeners out there? What's a good one for some parents that are like, I want to throw something on for the kids, the TV mom and dad, but I also want to enjoy this.
Recommendation for the Rad Dad Nation? Absolutely, yeah. Bro. I'm gonna say, okay, legit check out, and this is like with your kids obviously or not, original Dragon Ball in its entirety. Definitely sub and not dub, that's a given. But I was actually gonna say Dinosaur Train. It's fun, it's informative, and it's like at least semi-scientifically accurate, so you don't feel like such a piece of shit for like melting your kid's brain. That or King Julian, man, I'm not kidding. me and Brand, my neighbor, like we've fully texted each other to be like, yo, did you check out King Julian? Like we've superseded our children watching it. It's got it all. There's some funny jokes. So I think it's a DreamWorks and it's on Netflix, King Julian.
I'm going to stick with my earlier recommendation of Bluey. Super popular. I'm sure a lot of parents listening with like kids that are maybe 3 and older have probably watched a ton of Bluey already. But, you know, for those of you that haven't been introduced to the magic of Bluey, big recommend from me. Love Bluey. And they're still making new episodes. Like the new season was put on Disney Plus not that long ago. So
it's ongoing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So.
Oh, they're coming out on Disney. We never got around to chatting about it. Now at the end of our show, we're not going to. But the Fox Kids X-Men. Did you ever watch that?
No, probably too violent.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't. They weren't allowed to throw punches. There's an interesting tidbit.
Well, Power Rangers wasn't violent either, but I wasn't allowed to watch that.
They're coming out with a continuation of that 97 series, so maybe we'll have to check that out.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Hell yeah.
I do love that Disney Plus has put up all the old episodes of Spider-Man and stuff.
Yeah, same vintage. All Canadian voice actors.
Really?
Yeah, cheaper to do it up here, true story.
Yeah, well, you got a snowball mic in a basement, you can...
You can make any show you fucking want. All right, guys, thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Tune in next week when we steal the Declaration of Independence.